Welcome to our channel, where we delve into tales that chill the spine and stir the soul. Today, we present the Orphan Bell, a haunting journey through an abandoned Irish orphanage where ancestral guilt and forgotten spirits intertwine. If you're drawn to stories steeped in Irish folklore and the supernatural, you're in the right place. I wasn't expecting to inherit anything, not from someone I'd never met. The letter came in a plain white envelope, forwarded through 2 different law offices before reaching my flat in Camden. It was a crisp document from a firm in Donegal, informing me that one Sean McCarthy, my great-uncle on my mother's side, had passed away and left me his property, a small stone cottage, uninhabited for decades, located a few miles outside a village called Gortnamucklaig. I thought it was a joke at first. I didn't know anyone in Ireland. Mum barely talked about her family. She left when she was 16 and never looked back. Her stories, when she told them, were vague and often ended in long silences. I asked her once why she never visited. She just said,
"The land doesn't forget, and neither do they."
I didn't understand then. I think I do now. I flew into Derry on a gray Wednesday and picked up a rental car. The drive took just over 2 hours, winding roads, stone walls covered in moss, and endless green hills. The kind of countryside that looks peaceful from far away, until you're standing in the middle of it and realize how utterly alone you are. Gortnamucklaig wasn't on most maps. Just a few houses clustered around a church and a pub, and the rest, wind and distance. At the pub, I asked about the McCarthy place. The bartender, a round-faced man with deep lines under his eyes, gave me a long look before answering.
"That old ruin? Didn't know anyone still laid claim to it?"
He poured me a Guinness without asking.
"Strange spot. Wild wind out there. You'll want to keep the gate shut."
I asked him why. He shrugged.
"Sound carries in the valley. Echoes."
Then he turned to serve someone else. I got to the cottage just before sundown. It was more of a small estate than a simple house. The main structure was 2 stories of rough-cut gray stone, overgrown ivy clinging to one side, a small barn to the left, and an old iron gate that barely held on to its hinges. The garden, if you could call it that, was a tangle of weeds and tall yellow grass. And there, in the center of the courtyard, was the bell. It stood on a rusted frame, about 8 feet tall, the kind you'd see in old schools or churches. The bell itself was cracked near the base. No rope attached. It hadn't been rung in decades. At least, that's what I thought. Still, standing there, I could swear it gave off a faint vibration, not a sound. Just something beneath the skin, like memory. The inside of the house smelled of dust and old stone. Dry, at least. No mold. The furniture was basic and covered in white cloth, like the house had been waiting. Upstairs were 3 bedrooms, all with nailed-shut windows. Only the largest had a mattress, thin and stiff. I set my bag down. Turned on my phone's flashlight. The walls were bare, except for the faint outline of something once nailed there, maybe a crucifix. I didn't sleep much that night, and at 2:13 a.m., I heard it. Dong. Just one strike, low and thick, the kind that gets inside your teeth. I sat up in bed, heart already pounding. The sound seemed to hang in the air for several seconds after it ended. I waited. Nothing. No footsteps. No wind. No movement. I got up, grabbed the flashlight, and looked outside. The courtyard was empty. The bell stood still. Not a leaf stirred. I went back to bed, telling myself it must have been a dream or an echo, like the bartender said. But the next morning, something was off. I went to unlock the front door and found it already open, though I remembered bolting it before bed, and then I saw them, small footprints, wet ones, leading from the bell toward the house. They were too small to be mine, too defined to be old. They stopped right at the front step. I bent down to touch one. The stone was still damp. I drove back to the pub that afternoon, ordered a pint, and tried to sound casual. I asked the bartender, "That bell out there, did it belong to a church?" He looked at me slowly.
Not a church, school more like.
For what kind of students? He didn't answer. Just refilled my glass. When I got home, I started digging. Figuratively at first, there were no pictures on the walls. No letters. But inside the old writing desk in the study, beneath a false bottom drawer, I found a brittle envelope. Inside, a photo. Black and white. 10 children lined up in 2 rows in front of the bell, thin, pale, all staring straight ahead. Behind them stood a man, tall, severe. Coat buttoned to the neck. Eyes like granite. On the back, in faded pencil, St. Bridget's Home for Wayward Youths, 1911. I stared at the name for a long time. Why had no one mentioned this? Why had it never come up in the letter, the deed, the legal documents? That night, the bell rang again, 2:13. But this time, I wasn't dreaming. And this time, I saw someone standing beneath it. A child, barefoot, shirt torn, just standing there. I opened the window to call out, but when I looked again, he was gone. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I didn't even turn off the light. I told myself I'd imagined it, that it was the dark playing tricks, the way it always does, but there were 2 problems with that idea. First, the boy had left muddy footprints on the flagstone beneath the bell. Second, when I touched them, they were warm. The next morning, I explored the grounds properly. Behind the house, past a line of twisted hedgerows, lay a sunken path. Narrow and moss-covered, like an overgrown trail. Something told me not to follow it, so naturally, I did. It led to a clearing surrounded by crumbling stone walls. A circular foundation, old, barely visible beneath grass and nettles. In the center, a large, flat stone, blackened and cracked. I didn't recognize it for what it was until I saw the corner of an iron hinge, an altar, or maybe a punishment stone. I stood there for several minutes. No wind. No birds. Just silence so heavy it pressed against my ribs, and then I heard a child laugh, clear, bright. Right behind me, I turned. Nothing. But when I got back to the house, the front door was wide open again, and this time, the photo I'd hidden beneath the bed was now sitting on the kitchen table. I hadn't told anyone about it. That night, I waited 2:13 a.m. The bell rang. I was already outside when it happened, standing in the cold, watching, and I wasn't alone. 3 children this time, 2 boys and a girl, all barefoot, all in old-fashioned clothes. The girl's dress had a tear down the front, as if it had been ripped in haste. They stood in a triangle beneath the bell, unmoving. Then, slowly, they turned to face me. I wanted to speak, to ask something, anything, but my voice failed. The girl raised one hand, not to wave, but to point. At the second floor of the house, I turned to look and saw a man in the window. Tall, gaunt, staring down. I ran inside, up the stairs, and threw open the bedroom door. Nothing, but the room was freezing, and on the mirror, written in what looked like soot, were 5 words. We never rang the bell. I left the house that night, slept in the car on the edge of the village. When I woke, there was frost on the windows in the shape of handprints, small ones. I went back to the pub. This time, I wasn't playing it casual. Who ran St. Bridget's? I asked the bartender. He gave me the same look as before, the one that says you shouldn't be asking.
You're the McCarthy lad, aren't you? Apparently. Then maybe it's time someone told you.
He poured 2 whiskeys.
St. Bridget's wasn't just an orphanage. It was a place they sent the ones no one wanted, illegitimate children, runaways, the ones that didn't make the church look good.
And Sean McCarthy? He drank.
Your great-uncle ran it. He was their disciplinarian.
A long pause.
Children went missing.
I felt the world tilt a little, buried.
Unlikely. There were rumors about the bell.
What kind of rumors? He looked at me, eyes dark.
That it doesn't call the living.
I went home in a daze. Everything looked different now, the house less quaint, the walls less innocent. That night, I lit every candle I could find, sat by the bell until midnight, waited. M2:13, it rang. But this time, something changed. As the sound echoed, the air around me shimmered, not like heat, but like memory being pulled loose. I blinked and found myself inside the house. But it wasn't now. The floors were polished. The curtains new. Laughter echoed through the hallways. Children, dozens of them, and walking through them was a man. Sean McCarthy. You didn't need to see his face to know who he was. His presence carved silence. He carried a small bell in one hand. Every time it rang, a child flinched. Every time it rang, one disappeared behind a door, and no one ever saw them again. I tried to speak, to move, but I was trapped, watching. Then one child turned toward me, the girl from the night before. She walked through the vision and looked directly at me.
You're not him,
She said softly. Her voice echoed like wine through bones.
but you carry what he left behind.
And then I was back, sitting in the courtyard, the candle flames gone out, and the bell still vibrating. That was when the memories began, not mine. The next day, I smelled burnt porridge and old soap when I woke up. I knew the names of children I'd never met, heard their whispers before sleep, felt bruises where there were none. I was being filled. Not possessed, not exactly, but shared. Whatever the bell was calling, it wasn't done yet. I stopped trying to sleep. There was no point. Every night, at precisely M2:13, the bell rang. And every night, I changed. The first time I woke up with muddy feet. The second, my palms were scraped and blistered, as if I'd been digging. On the third, I found something under my pillow. A tooth. Small, human, still bloody. I tried to throw it away, but it came back. Each time I turned a corner, it was there, on a shelf, beside the sink, tucked into my boot. I began to speak out loud to an empty house. I don't know what you want. I'm not him. I'm not Sean. But the house did not care. The memories kept coming, and they weren't always clear. Sometimes it was just pain, sharp, localized, like a strap against my back. Other times, it was confusion, a sudden urge to hide in small places. Once, I heard a voice whisper in Irish, words I didn't understand. When I looked them up, the closest translation was, "He took our names." That was the night I found the cellar. There was no visible entrance, no door, no hatch, just a strange draft beneath the kitchen floorboards. I pulled up the boards one by one, hands trembling, and there it was. A trapdoor. Rusty iron ring. Black wood swollen with age. I had to use a crowbar. The air that rose up from it was ancient, rot, lime, mold, and something like candle wax. I descended. Stone steps led downward, into a space that felt far too large to exist beneath the cottage. Walls carved into the earth, old wood beams cracking with the weight of centuries. And at the far end, a door, painted red, the only color in this entire damned place. On the door, dozens of names scratched into the wood, some full, some just initials. One, repeated over and over in frantic cuts, Ian. The boy from the bell. I opened it. Inside was not a room, it was a tomb. Shelves, like those in ossuaries, made of bone, wood, and stone, skulls stacked, small ones, so many. And a bell, just like the one outside, but this one was black. I reached for it and froze. My body would not move forward. Something was holding me in place. And then I heard it. The children, dozens of them, breathing, waiting.
You can't take it.
A voice said. I turned. It was the girl again.
You're not supposed to hold the bell, you're supposed to hear it.
She walked toward me, barefoot, eyes hollow.
I rang it once. It took my name. Owen rang it twice. It took his face.
She stood before me now.
You're his blood. His dead belongs to you.
I didn't do anything, I said. My voice cracked. I was a child. I wasn't even born yet. She tilted her head.
Then why do you remember what he did?
I ran. Back up the stairs, through the kitchen, outside into the night. I didn't stop until I hit the road. When I looked back, the bell was swinging, but not from the wind. I stayed away for 2 nights, rented a room at a B&B in Letterkenny. Didn't tell them why I looked like I hadn't slept in weeks. But the memories followed. Even away from the house, I'd hear the bell. Even in the shower, I'd see handprints on the fogged mirror. Once, I blacked out and woke up with dirt in my mouth. It was clear the land had marked me, and until the debt was settled, I wouldn't be free. So I returned. I bought candles, dozens, salt, chalk, books on Irish folk rituals. I didn't even know if I believed in that sort of thing, but at this point, belief wasn't required. Only action. I drew a circle around the black bell in the cellar, placed salt lines, lit candles, and poured water from the nearby well into a small wooden bowl. If nothing else, I wanted to listen. And listen I did. I sat there, inside that dark earth room, for hours. The bell didn't ring, but I heard something. Voices, names, lullabies. And then, a scream. Not mine, but close. The floor beneath me shifted, not physically, but emotionally. Suddenly, I was inside Sean's mind. He stood in this room, holding the bell, children in chains, his voice calm, cold, priest-like.
It is better for the soul to rise clean.
Then he struck one of the boys, Owen. The boy spat blood, refused to cry. And Sean, my ancestor, smiled. That's when I realized something. The bell didn't call the dead, it trapped them. Bound them, used their names to fuel its ringing. And I was becoming its next vessel. Unless I did something, I left the cellar just before sunrise. My body felt heavier. My skin tingled like something was inside it moving. I sat on the porch and watched the mist roll over the hills. Somewhere out there was the grave of Sean O'Malley. But his soul wasn't resting. I needed to understand, so I returned to the church archives in the nearby village. Old ledgers, handwritten entries, some barely legible. It took hours, but I found it. March 1871, chapel bell confiscated after incident involving children in the O'Malley Orphan Refuge. Father S. O'Malley reassigned to penal parish pending investigation. June 1871, refuge burned. Bell unaccounted for. 13 presumed dead. Names stricken from registry. They had erased them. Literally, ink scratched out, names scraped from the pages with a blade. No one ever meant for them to be remembered. But they were remembering through me. That night, I returned with a plan, not to seal the cellar, not to flee, but to ring the bell one last time and call them all. I stood in the circle, chalk, salt, candles, the black bell before me, my hands trembling. The girl appeared again. This time, I didn't speak. She simply nodded and stepped aside. I raised the clapper and struck. Boom. The sound didn't echo, it inhaled. Everything around me pulled inward, shadows, wind, breath. The flame of each candle bent toward the bell. Then they came. Children, pale, gaunt, silent. One by one, they entered the cellar, not walking, but gliding. Owen stood in front, eyes black, flesh translucent. But he smiled. And then, behind them, came him. Sean O'Malley. Not as a man, but as a shadow twisted into human shape, tall, thin, his mouth sewn shut, but I could still hear him.
You brought them back.
He raised one arm. The bell shook violently.
You are me.
But I stepped forward, and for the first time in weeks, I spoke with certainty. No, I said, you ended their names. I'm here to return them. I reached into my pocket, the list I had made. From every scratched register, every faded record, every whispered name in my sleep. I read them, out loud. Each one. And as I did, the children changed, color returned, features softened, tears flowed. And Sean, he screamed. Not from his mouth, but from inside the walls. The stones cracked, the cellar shook. But I kept reading. Until the final name. Owen. I said it 3 times, like an invocation. And the boy looked at me, smiled, and vanished. The bell shattered. In silence. And the cellar collapsed. I barely made it out. The trapdoor slammed shut behind me with a gust of air so strong it knocked over the kitchen table. But the house felt different. Lighter, warmer, as if it had exhaled. I left the next day, sold the cottage for nothing, told the new owner it had structural issues. Which, in a way, was true. But I kept the list, framed it, hung it above my desk. Not as a warning, but a promise. Some names must never be forgotten. And some bells must never be heard again. Thank you for joining us on this eerie expedition into the Orphan Bell. If the echoes of haunted orphanages and the weight of ancestral guilt captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that traverse the thin veil between the living and the dead. Until next time, keep your ears open. Some bells ring for you.